A single signature on one proclamation just sent a 50% shockwave rippling across the North American economy. And it's all targeted at one of the world's most critical metals, copper. Today, we're going to break down how this one move has ignited a really high-stakes trade conflict. Okay, let's get right into it. We are talking about a massive tariff that basically appeared out of thin air, putting a super important economic partnership to the test. And the stakes, they could not be higher. Not just for big companies, but for the price of our cars, our homes, and really the future of trade on this continent. Now, don't just write that off as being overly dramatic. This quote really captures the immediate gut reaction from analysts. They didn't see this as some minor adjustment. They saw it as a detonation, an intentional move to blow up the way things were. It all comes down to this number, 50%. On July 10th, 2025, the U.S. administration dropped this bombshell of a tariff on all copper imports, and it's set to take effect on August 1st. You know, a number like that isn't just meant to get your attention, it's designed to force a major reaction. So let's start with the tariff itself and the immediate chaos it kicked off in the market. So what's the official reason for such a drastic move? National security. The administration used what's called a Section 232 investigation. It's the same tool they used for steel and aluminum tariffs, basically arguing that being too reliant on imported copper is a threat to the United States. And the market's reaction? It was instant. And it was brutal. As you can see right here, copper prices shot up to an all-time high, jumping 13% in just one day of trading. I mean, that wasn't just a price bump. It was the single steepest one-day rise in the history of copper trading ever. But you know, a shock this big never just stays on Wall Street. So let's follow the ripple effect as it moves from the trading floors out to the factory floors. So the first domino to fall? Electric vehicles. Your average EV uses up to 80 kilograms of copper. This tariff, it instantly adds about $90 to the cost of every single one of those vehicles. That's a direct hit to automakers like Ford and Tesla. And then you've got our infrastructure. It takes nearly 5 tons of copper just to build 1 mile of high-voltage power line. 1 mile. All of a sudden, those huge, ambitious projects to upgrade the power grid are facing massive budget problems, and utilities are already talking about emergency price hikes for all of us. And here's where it hits you in the driveway. Because the auto supply chain is so tightly woven together, this one tariff could add as much as $6,000 to the sticker price of a car built in Canada and then sold in the US. That's according to Cox Automotive. Just wow. And it doesn't just stop with cars. When you bundle this copper tariff with the tariffs we already have on lumber, housing groups figure it adds a jaw-dropping $22,000 to the cost of building a typical new home. From your car to your house, the bill for this trade fight is adding up. And it's adding up fast. So, how did Canada, the country that got hit the hardest by this, respond? I mean, they supply nearly a quarter of all U.S. copper. They were basically forced into a corner, and they came out fighting. Canada is not just sitting around waiting for some diplomatic fix. Instead, both the private sector and the government are rolling out this rapid 4-part strategy. First, activate long-standing contingency plans. Second, immediately start rerouting copper shipments away from the U.S. and toward markets in Asia. Third, use the Shanghai Metals Exchange to hedge and sell their product. And fourth, get a massive list of retaliatory tariffs ready to go. They're literally building a whole new trade route on the fly. And the data shows this isn't just a plan. It's already happening. These latest numbers from Statistics Canada are pretty stark. Shipments to the U.S. are down over 6%. While exports over to Asia have jumped by nearly 27%. The great copper diversion has already started. This brings us to the ticking clock. Both sides are now on a collision course, and some really critical deadlines are coming up fast. Okay, here's the timeline we're all watching. The proclamation was signed on July 10th. The U.S. tariffs are scheduled to start on August 1st, but the most important date on this whole chart is right there in the middle, July 22nd. That is Canada's deadline to announce its own counterpunch if this tariff isn't reversed. And Canada's threat is a big one. They have a list of $125 billion worth of U.S. goods that are ready for retaliatory duties. That is the leverage they are bringing to the table, and that's what makes that July 22nd deadline so incredibly important for American exporters. Ultimately, this whole conflict has become about so much more than just copper. What we're watching could be a major turning point for the entire trade relationship in North America. The pressure is just mounting from every direction. You've got more than 200 American manufacturers who have already filed for tariff exemptions. Canadian unions are lobbying hard for subsidies to protect jobs. Financial analysts are sounding the alarm, warning about a 4% hit to all U.S. cross-border sales if Canada retaliates. And on the ground, we're even starting to see calls for consumer boycotts. All of this brings us to one final critical question. This has gone way beyond a simple argument over copper. It's now about whether a single tariff can unravel decades of economic integration, forcing North America to make a choice. Will it reinvent its trade system, or will it start tearing it apart, one commodity at a time? The next few weeks will give us the answer.